Welcome to my channel. This is Wahalar Architect. I'm your host, Timmy. And today we are going to be looking at five biggest architectural fails. So let's go.
Five of the biggest architectural fails. Number 5. Ray and Maria Stata Center.
Before I continue, I want to say this is an insane building. This is an insane building. I'm trying to think about how the structural engineers put this all together. It's just insane. It's just insane. Different shapes, different forms, different all together in one. It's just insane.
The Ray and Maria Stata Center opened in 2004 and got lots of positive attention for its mind-bending angles and unique structural facades. This academic complex at MIT was designed by Frank Gehry, but in the years since, MIT has actually sued Frank Gehry's firm because of all the problems that have occurred. Issues like mold growing on the brick exterior, cracks in the walls, huge icicle daggers, and drainage issues are just the tip of the iceberg on this $300 million building.
So one of the problems about the buildings like this is going to be maintenance. Is definitely maintenance. There's going to be a lot more issues on maintenance because when designing to look at how was going to stand was the design consideration of this building. I don't think maintenance was deeply looked into in this building. So that is why it's going to have many issues on maintenance. And that is a problem about design. When you are designing, you do not only consider how it will look, but how how much it will cost to maintain. Because when a building is 10%, when the maintenance of the building is 10% the cost of construction, it's a failure. I'm sorry. But once the building is 10, the cost of maintenance of a building is 10% already, at least 10% or even 5% the cost of construction of the building, it's bound to failure because that 10% is not just going to be once, it's going to be constant. And let's just say we have 10% 10 times, that's already the cost of the building. So we are maintaining it at the cost of the building. That is a failed design.
Overall, the school has spent more than $1.5 million on repairs. Number 4. Tropicana Field Stadium. Tropicana Field is the home of Major League Baseball team the Tampa Bay Rays. And the field itself isn't actually the problem. It's what hangs above it that causes issues. As you can imagine, the game of baseball involves trying to hit the ball as high and as far as possible. It's much more difficult to hit the ball out of the park when there are several lights and 4 catwalks hanging down from the ceiling. These structures often get in the way of long hits, blocking some potential home run balls. And every once in a while, a light will get hit. This causes extremely hot glass to rain onto the field. It's understandable to put a roof over the field to protect players and fans from the elements, but maybe the design needs to be significantly improved.
Yeah, so in the design of stadiums, you have to consider the type of sports that are going to be played in the stadium. That is the major consideration. Because the design, how you are going to design a basketball court is going to be different from how you're going to be designing a football court, how you're going to be designing a hockey pitch, a golf court, or let's say a baseball court. Because take for example in football considers any ball out of the pitch throwing or a corner kick or a goal kick. It does not count. Once the ball is out of the line of the pitch, it does not count. But for example, for baseball, the farther it is the farther out of the pitch it is, the more it counts because we have something like a home run. So you will try to hit an home run, and when it is hitting the architectural elements around the field, then it is a poor design for a baseball pitch. If it was a football pitch that was done, then it would have been a decent design, because of course once it goes out of the line it does not count. But for a baseball pitch you have to consider the home run.
Number 3. Walkie-talkie skyscraper. Widely touted for its towering height and slightly concave facade, the walkie-talkie skyscraper in London was an architectural icon. It didn't take people too long to figure out that this structure is also a 525-foot-tall heat ray. Because of the concave shape of the building, sunlight reflects and focuses in a way that magnifies it. This causes anything that comes into the focus of the light to be burned. Heat rays reflecting off the building have shattered tiles, fried doorways, and heated up the ground to 243 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually melted cars all the way down to their frames.
Part of the definition of architecture is that it is the art and science. Most people focus on the art of architecture and not the science of architecture, and that is where problems start. When you are focusing on the art and not the science aspect of architecture, there's problem, because this is basically physics. This is basic physics on concave and convex lens. When you have a convex lens, let's take for example a convex lens with the ones we have in our um, small magnifying glasses. When you have a convex lens and you point it directly to the sunlight, wherever it focuses on, it's going to burn it. If it is a piece of paper, it's going to burn that piece of paper, or it's going to start a fire because it's concentrating all its energy on that particular spot. So it's a concave lens. It's going to transfer all the energy it is getting from the sun and direct it to a particular spot, which is going to melt or burn whatever is in the pot. It is lucky they do not have a tree in its path or a wildfire, because those are examples of wildfire starts. And that is another thing I need to note, that when designing, you have to design according to the environment. That type of design can work, might have been okay for design abroad because of the sun, the magnitude of the sun isn't that much. But imagine that type of design is brought to an African country, there's going to be a lot of casualties because of the magnitudes of sun we have down here, the intensity of the sun we have down here. It is going to cause major problems, can start fires and everything. So that is another thing we need to take note of when designing. Consider the location and consider the science.
Number 2. Sampung Department Store. Initially designed to be a 4-floor office building, it was only later that this structure was converted into the Sampung Department Store. This extensive remodel required that several elevator support columns be removed and that an air conditioning unit be relocated to the roof. It doesn't take a genius engineer to figure out that removing support columns and adding more weight to the roof is not going to lead to a good result.
I don't know. I don't think this is more. I think this is more of an engineering field than an architectural field, because the design was for a office building, which was built for an office building, and it's tooled for an office building. But when the renovation was being done, when they wanted to remodel it, they had to remove structural elements. I think the structural engineer in charge of the program of the project should be, how can I say it politely, should be imprisoned and jailed for years and years and 100 years, because when you are removing structural elements and adding more weight to the building, the structural elements, the columns are already carrying the weight of the building. They were implied, they were um, installed in the building to carry the weight of the building. Then you now decide that okay, you are going to remove them, and not only that, you do not stop there. You now added more weight on top of the building. That's a recipe for disaster. And I think he should be jailed. If he's not jailed, please get me his number. We need to jail him. Well, of course, that is of course. If he did not say anything, if because some clients are very very stubborn, no offense, but some clients are very very stubborn. It is what they want to do that they want to do. So when the structural engineer advises them that okay, this is not what this thing will not work, or it's going to cause damage, then they'll be like, no, it can work. Then they'll look for someone that will say yes, it can work, will agree with them, and that person just wants the money. So clients, you need to be careful, please. Don't kill somebody else. Don't be a source of pain to other people. When a structural engineer tells you that okay, this thing has more liability to fail structurally, listen. When an architect tells you that okay, this design will not work because of the type of land or because of something, and gives you an explanation, a valid explanation, please listen to him. They are professionals.
In 1995, 1,500 people were trapped and 502 were killed when the
Wow.
building collapsed due to structural instability.
Wow.
Number 1. Skyscraper on stilts. In the 1970s, an architect named William Lemessurier had an ideal construction site for a skyscraper he wanted to build. Unfortunately for him, the site was already occupied by a Lutheran church that was unwilling to move. His solution? To move forward with a 59-story tall Citigroup Center directly above the church. That's right. He built a foundation out of stilts, so the building is directly above the church. Of course, if you're not careful, building a skyscraper on stilts can have some pretty dangerous structural problems. For example, rather than using welded joints, the construction was done with bolted joints. You may not know the difference, but this makes it super susceptible to toppling over. Rather than warning everyone of the structural instability, Citigroup just had the joints secretly welded together, improving the structural integrity of the building. If that building had come down, the lives of around 200,000 people could have been lost.
You know, there are some expensive gambles we do as architects, and most times is we just believe it can work. Sometimes it can, but should we risk it? There are sometimes that we need to consider ourselves that should we risk it? Is is a positive is the positive side more greater than the negative? And the negative would, how many lives will they cost? Because if this had failed, imagine the lives lost. Even the church too would have been gone. So please, there are some risks we should take, and there are some risks that are too risky to be taken, especially in architecture. Because, like my lecturer once said, my architectural lecturer once said, he said, only architecture can kill a lot of people at once. Only architecture. Other jobs can only kill one person at a time. A doctor can only kill one person at a time if he makes a mistake. A lawyer can only sentence one person to jail if he makes a mistake. But an architect can kill thousands of people if they make a mistake. An engineer. So let us be careful the type of risk we take. Peaceful water always.